I don't think we have time to even read your bio right now, but if I could, please, if I could, it would include accolades from around the planet as an economics advisor, as a spiritual leader, as an entrepreneur, as an extraordinary, wise soul on the planet, and absolutely beautiful. Tia, the embodiment of Radha here on stage with us. Thank you so much for being here. We are about to go on an incredible journey here. It's going to be amazing. And I want you to describe it though. And I just want you all to know that we're going to tap into our hearts and we're going to set intentions, and we're going to do an experiment across the Atlantic Ocean that is going to blow your minds. This has never been attempted before. I'm putting in a lot of hype into this, and it's going to land, and it's going to be reality. So without further ado, Tia Kansara, thank you so much. My pleasure.
Thank you, Jackson. Hi, everyone. How are you all doing this morning? I've basically never done this before, so that you know that we're in mutually first-time territory. My background, as much as it has been in the logical field of science, of technology, it's been in the economy, about a year ago, completely and utterly changed. I had an Akashic reading, and the lady did an Akashic reading on me and said that you are an Akashic reader. And I was like, yeah, right. On Valentine's Day, we were going to have a chat about this Akashic reading. And I thought I'd get some, background research on what she said the first time. And she said, no, we're going to do it again. We're going to do your second Akashic reading. And when she did it, she said, I want you to close your eyes, say the prayer, and then see what happens. Just speak into the Zoom like you would tell me what you're describing in your mind. I closed my eyes. And for a good 45 minutes, I don't know where it all came from, but I saw visuals. I thought I was imagining it all. But it turns out that even when we're in this meditative space, we're capable of visualizing. Little did I know that many of my senses were waking up to the clairs, clairaudience, clairsentience, clairvisual. And so in all of these clairaudient, visual, sentience, cognizance, these clairs are where we become really sensitive. But often we forget that they enter the ether. And when we enter this etheric realm, an element that goes beyond the physical, you sort of have this bridge between both the matter and the energy, or the matter and the mind, the matter and the heart. This coherence happens between both the physical of what we know and the etheric of which we cannot see. The experiment today that we're going to conduct is to tap into that coherence, something that I experienced for the very first time last year, and something that today we're going to do as a group. So effectively, we're going to be visualizing this energy, and we're going to be connecting to a little device called the Cymascope. I'm not able to change the slides on the clicker, but can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. This is our team. John Stuart Reid, absolutely phenomenal scientist, acoustic physicist, who's been taking on this task of visualizing sound and energy using a very particular instrument called the Cymascope. Next slide, please. The Cymascope is a phenomenal instrument. It's a first time. Next slide, please. You're going to see it on the right-hand side. This instrument is a device that allows us to capture sound. And it captures it in these beautiful visuals that you can see at the bottom left. An experiment was done, conducted to inform this Cymascope in 3 stages. In this experiment at the bottom left, you'll see the word intention, although it's not loud at the moment, said 3 times. It was before, during, and after meditation. The energy that was transferred through sound and light was captured in these visuals, and you can see them as sacred geometric symbols. And that's effectively what happens inside the vial that is capturing this sound energy in water molecules, if you ever remember the beautiful work of Emoto. Next slide, please. Thank you. We've got 2 experiments today, and John is going to go through both of those experiments with us. But before I move on to John, I wanted to introduce Mia, the most incredible Mia with Tibetan bowls and crystal bowls. You can see these are the bowls that we've got, and you can see the frequencies that we're going to be using. Ultimately, we want to tap into the heart frequency, which is the F note, and we have her biggest bowl is an F frequency. So once we listen to the music, we're really going to tap into the sensations that happen inside your body. Next slide, please. All right. I think we're ready to be connected with John. John is currently in the UK. I'm just going to introduce John really quickly. So John, aside from being a man on this mission to educate and inspire the world about the field of cymatics and creating that visual capability through the instrument called the Cymascope that is invented, it's really going to change our perception of physical spaces and how we can capture that energy using these beautiful glyphs called the cymaglyph. And his Cymascope invention has changed not only the way that it allows us to see this omnipresent, almost etheric energy made visible, but it also helps us to differentiate between the sounds emitted, let's say, by cancer cells and healthy cells in collaboration with a variety of different scientific measures. So we're really going to be balancing two worlds, one of typical traditional science and the other of a spiritual, sacred capability. So I'm going to hand over to John. I'm most likely going to need to be muted because we've got a little bit of resonance that's passing through. And then I'd like John to introduce us to telekinesis and his hope for the experiment, and then the first experiment that we're going to be doing. Over to you, John. This is where John is. Miami calling, John. Are you there? All right, everyone, close your eyes. This is where it starts. Come on, John. Oh, we see you on the main screen, John.
Hello.
Yay! John, we've just introduced you.
Sure, thank you. So a very warm welcome to the Cymascope lab. So I didn't really hear Tia's introduction there because the sound was very strange, but I imagine that you're all very well aware of the phenomenon of telekinesis, the power of the mind to move objects without contact, without physical contact. And I'm sure you're also aware that there have been many experiments conducted over the decades on telekinesis, but none of them really have been sufficiently robust, let's say, from a scientific viewpoint, to be accepted by mainstream science as a real phenomenon. I certainly believe in telekinesis. I've seen aspects of it myself. And one of the aspects that I'd like to just share with you very briefly before we talk about the Cymascope instrument is an experiment that we conducted with C.P. Raz, the Israeli filmmaker, online with I think it was about 2,000 people. And the idea was that these 2,000 or so people would send their loving vibrations to human blood. Because I had conducted a series of experiments with Saya's father, Sunchol-ji, Professor Sunchol-ji, and they'd been very successful in terms of using the power of music to increase the longevity of human red blood cells. Very successful. And so we did this experiment with CP, where she had about, like I say, 2,000 or so people sending love to blood in an incubator in the lab here. But the other thing that's really exciting about this experiment is that she also wanted us to obviously conduct a control experiment. So we had another vial of blood in the Faraday cage, which is an electromagnetically screened cage or little room. And the results were extraordinary. We found that the number of red blood cells went off the scale, not only in the incubator in the main body of the lab here, but also even in the Faraday cage, which is electromagnetically screened. So how does that work? You know, how is it that the power of consciousness of about 2,000 people can even reach inside the Faraday cage and create this amazing healing effect with the blood? Also, I did see that Tia had shared with you the consciousness experiment with Lynn McTaggart, and that was also very important because it was showing, she was doing an online event for the people of Beirut for that terrible tragedy in the harbor, that huge explosion. And she used this word intention in the preamble before she began the experiment or this meditation. Then during the meditation, which was a guided meditation, she said this word again, intention, and then again after the meditation, she said it a third time. And I actually downloaded each of these voice files from the 3 different times, injected them into the Cymascope, and I think you saw the results. A dramatic increase in the coherence of the patterns. So that was another very important experiment relating to the power of consciousness. So let me now very briefly describe the Cymascope instrument. You see it here behind me. In the center of the Cymascope is this little tiny cuvette. It's fused quartz, and it has a black fused quartz bottom, as you can see here. And into there, we put a small volume of water, very specific volume of water. And you might be wondering, why is it that the Cymascope instrument is now revered by many scientists around the world? It's in use in laboratories and so on, in university laboratories, when there are many other people around the world who are using cymatics in a kind of more casual way. What is the difference between the Cymascope instrument and what they're doing, you know, in a more casual way? Well, the main difference is that the Cymascope instrument is a calibrated instrument. That is to say that the normal resonances in the various components of the Cymascope are identified, and then the resonances are tuned out electronically. So when you put whatever sound you put into the Cymascope, you get a flat response and an accurate output in terms of what we term a cymaglyph, which is our word for sound pattern. So what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be using the exquisitely sensitive surface of water as this experiment with telekinesis. And you guys are all going to attempt to change the fold order, that is how many aspects of the geometry, how many sides the geometry has in the cymatic pattern that I will bring up on the screen. So this little webcam, as you can see, is looking across the lab to this computer here, where what you're looking at there is a reflection of light. That ring is actually a reflection of light from a light ring that's, as you can see here, pointing down into the water. So if I put my hand underneath the camera there now, you can see that is literally looking down into the water, right? So what I'm going to do now is to bring up a little bit of acoustic energy into the water. And then when we get a nice stable cymatic pattern, because sometimes it takes a little time for the pattern to stabilize. Why? Because the energy, don't forget, is being absorbed by trillions and trillions of water molecules. So once we get stability, I'll then take a photo because Professor Sungchul-ji, if this experiment is successful, Professor Sungchul-ji will need this in order to document what we achieved today. But listen, you know, this is a fun experiment. It's not highly controlled, but we do indeed in the future intend to conduct highly controlled experiments. So regardless of the outcome today, in the future, we are going to be conducting similar experiments, but in a very, very controlled manner. So let's just have some fun today and just see what happens. So I'm going to bring up some acoustic energy now into the water. Well, you're looking at there now a 10-fold cymaglyph, and you probably know that that's pretty important because 10-fold is actually the cross-section of the DNA molecule in our bodies. So it's a really nice 10-fold image. Let me just stabilize it a little bit more. I'm going to take a photo now. I'll take a couple.
We're going to be able to see these screenshots in much more clarity later. At the moment, it's important for you to see the whole setup and the instrument and the screen at the back.
Just make a note of the number. Okay, so now we have a photo of this 10-fold cymaglyph, and it's scintillating on the screen, which you can see that is normal, because around the boundary of the water, in any glass of water, and the same is true in this little cuvette, there is what's termed exclusion zone water, which is also called structured water. And as the wavelets move out to the boundary and reflect, they're constantly bringing across the surface of the water some of this structured water, and that causes a sort of scintillation effect in the imagery. That's normal in a dynamic standing wave, which is what we are looking at. So now, guys, it's over to you for your 7-minute meditation, and to see if you can change that pattern at all, whether you can change the fold order or some other aspect of that pattern, and then I'll take another photograph at the end of the 7 minutes. So good luck to all of us.
You ready? All right. Stand up, everyone. So this is going to be live, and John is going to be able to document this as it happens. What we're going to do is very simple. We're going to get into our bodies, and using the element of ether, we're going to expand our consciousness beyond just the individual to the group. And then as we enter this etheric channel, we're going to connect with this machine.
And everyone in the room.
John, if you can put your microphone on mute, that would be really helpful. And Mia is going to be helping us with the beautiful toning. To begin with, just give a quick shake of your body. Brilliant. Relax into it. If you want to close your eyes, you can. If you want to give yourself a quick stretch, you can. Just feel what it feels like to be right here, right now. Feel your feet on the ground and move your conscious attention from your feet slowly all the way up, noticing, accepting, appreciating what's happening inside of your body, letting go of anything that is bringing your attention specifically to one piece or part of your body. As you slowly move up your body, you want to be scanning to see if there is anything else of residue that needs to be released. When you are complete, bring your left hand onto your heart. And so we will begin. Take a moment to tap into your heartbeat, your pulse, and feel the pulse of your body. It only really takes a couple seconds to feel this beautiful beat within your body. And it only takes a couple more for the entire room to synchronize to your heartbeat. When you're connected with yourself, I want you to expand your ribcage and take a very deep breath. And release. And again. And release. Final time. And release. Take a deep breath in this time, connected to your heart, connected to your pulse. And you will be singing an Om chant, very simply connected to your heart. And as you expand this chant of the Om, you'll concentrate on the vowel sounds that come through. Take it at your own pace, and the pace at which you breathe deeply and release should be a circular breath. You take in the breath for as long as you exhale that breath. And then I will, in the meantime, let you know what we're going to be doing on the etheric. In the entire duration, you will be chanting Om. Just nod to me so that you know and you're comfortable. Brilliant. Okay, here we go. Take a deep breath in. Keep chanting. This is the Aurea event calling the Cymascope. With our intention and with our chanting, we are connecting across the Atlantic through a quantum field. And that quantum field gives us the opportunity to move the Cymascope. We will increase through our intention, our intuition, connected with this Cymascope, the opportunity that it gives us to move what has never been done before through telekinesis. Our psychic senses are activated, an entire group of people from Miami are connected to a Cymascope based in the UK. And slowly, as we quiet down, bringing our attention back into our hearts, we're just going to send that final message to the Cymascope, that our message has been sent to you. On the other side, through this quantum field, is the opportunity to enter a world that is invisible, that's still present. We're now going to take a seat, and we're going to hand over to John. And John's going to let us know the result of this experiment. Okay. Thank you, everyone. How did that feel? Thank you, Mia, on the crystal bowls. Thank you, Sarah, with the drum. John will be taking an image. So he took one before, during, and after, and we'll make those available to everybody in the room as well. There is another experiment that's going to be happening with even more scientific rigor. Of course, this is a practice session and a little bit of fun, and introducing you to the Cymascope. In actual fact, what happens with the human body when we experience sound is that the integral membrane proteins of our cells are like these mycelial networks connecting one cell to another. And when sound, like we experience today from outside of our body, is experienced inside of our body, that phase change in the music impacts our bodies. And because it impacts our bodies, it can shift the way that we behave and feel. And of course, there is an alignment and a coherence that happens at the same time. What the Cymascope is doing is capturing that for us. John.
Here. Well, I can't show you the results, but what I can, because they are basically in this computer and I would need to, get them out. I can share them later for sure. But what I saw with my own eyes was in the last minute or so of the meditation, there was definitely more activity in the cymaglyph. It was actually starting to shimmer.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And I took a photograph, obviously, at the end. I took a couple of photos, actually. So I think we might actually have a result. I'm not sure.
Holy bananas.
It looked like, to me, in the last minute or so, it was starting to shimmer quite a lot more than it had at the beginning. So I think we may have a result, and I'll certainly send the files through to Professor G, and he can compare them with his Planckian distribution equation algorithm and just see whether there is a significant difference between the beginning and the end of the meditation. But from what I saw there, I think there is a difference, actually. So fingers crossed,
Fingers crossed, everyone. That's incredible. Thank you, John. Well, everyone, that's all we've got time for. I very much hope that you'll follow our journey to explore what sound made visible can actually do for us. There is an experiment that's happening in October in Egypt with the pyramids in Egypt, and we're going to be doing that inside the chambers, and we are going to be documenting the entire process. And if you'd like to find out more, you're welcome to have a chat with me, to Sarah G, and also to John Stuart Reid. Hopefully we can share the documentation of the images of the before, during, and after. And there'll be a link as well, just in case you want to get involved in any way. Thank you very much for your time.
Bye-bye.